Hello, today I asked a question in my WhatsApp status about where do you keep your wounded heart. The responses I got made me to think that I need to address this issue a little bit further, because I think this is one of the mistakes that maybe we've been making, and that is why our hearts bleed long after they have been wounded. What is a wounded heart? A wounded heart is an injury to your inner self, and this injury cannot be seen with naked eyes, but can only be seen with the inner eyes. So there has to be deliberate effort to see the wounded heart. What are some of the sources of these wounds? Number one, I'll surprise you. It is from ourselves. Number two, it is from the relationships we keep, and so it is from the outer. Number three is from the adversities we face. And these are some of the reasons where you find yourself struggling and you find yourself unable to achieve happiness even though you pursue it. How do we wound ourselves? Number one, it's our belief system. When you believe something that actually hurts you, you begin a struggle with yourself, and it is so hard to rescue you from you, and it's only awareness that can help you realize that your belief system is hurting you. Number two, the way we manage ourselves is another way that we hurt ourselves. You keep goals that you do not keep. You make goals you do not keep. You make resolutions you do not follow. And you make choices that actually hurt you rather than help you. Another way we wound ourselves is our coping systems. Stress is a normal life happening, and we get stressed by even the things that make us happy. For example, when a lady is expecting a child, they are stressed about, is this child okay? How is going to be the delivery and all those things? It's something that is good, but still gives you stress. So how do you cope with these things? Some of the ways we cope that actually injures our hearts is, for example, the addictions you find yourself in. In Kenya, we are dealing with alcohol addictions. We have other drug addictions. We have addictions to sex. We have addictions to eating. We have addictions to gambling and doing all the things that we try to do to make ourselves happy, but they end up injuring our inner self, and that is why sometimes you get wounded. How others hurt us, the relationship that we find ourselves in that hurt us are, for example, romantic relationships, whether premarital or after. And this is where sometimes we feel we are betrayed when somebody behaves in a particular way that we do not expect. When we have relationships, we have expectations depending on our perception. And so sometimes we get hurt because before we truly understand what we are dealing with and the person we are dealing with, and maybe their mindset, their personality, and their emotional needs, then we peg on them expectations. And that is why we get hurt so much by our romantic relationships, because we do not invest in knowledge. We invest in emotions only, and only to realize that the knowledge behind was actually should have been more revealing. The other people that actually hurt our hearts are our family. For example, a child who is behaving the way the parents are not expecting, maybe letting them down, that really injures a parent, and the parent finds it difficult to even enjoy what they have. And you find yourself fixated to this child who is not performing the way you expect. So the people we really who can access our hearts are the people we love most, and that they are the ones who can wound us more. And friends also, there are some friends who can access our hearts because we hold them dear, and those are the sources of injuries we get to our hearts. So to answer the question where to hide the heart, I'll give you a story of an experience I had last week. I was doing some duties in my home, and I was injured on my big toe by something that really hit it hard. I sat down on the floor without even remembering that I'm sitting on the floor. It was hurting so much. And I started realizing that I have a big toe that can really stop me from doing what I need to do. So normally I just had a leg. It's a leg I was noticing. But now I began noticing the big toe, and particularly that particular toe that was hurt. it became prominent, and it became, it started giving me demands, because I demanded to walk in a particular way. So instead of walking the comfortable way, I had to walk in a particular way so that I could accommodate the pain that was coming from the toe. So I started guarding it. I started wearing shoes that can only accommodate its new even shape, because it was swollen. I started realizing I can no longer go to the bathroom with the shoes, with my slippers, because it was no longer comfortable. And so a lot of things had to change. And this was not like the toe was asking me, can you do this? I realized that I had to do this in order to get comfortable. And probably that is one of the things that we miss when we are addressing our hearts. What do we do? Because the heart is not swollen and somebody cannot see from outside, we mask our feelings and we mask everything, and so we prevent our hearts from recovering and from healing. So what can you do with your heart? Now, not the toe. Acknowledge you are wounded. So when something happens and you feel you are not comfortable and things are not the same, acknowledge that. That is the beginning of healing, because you sit down and tell yourself, you know something? I think I'm wounded. And only then can you start, first of all, protecting yourself from more wounding. So I could not have gone back to the place I was hit to get hit again, or to risk getting hit again. So you first of all keep away from what is wounding you, and it may mean physical shifting. If the person or the situation is not changing, then you really have to make the change. So that is the first thing. Number two, adjust to accommodate the healing process. For example, I had to adjust by wearing shoes that are going to make sure that my toe is comfortable. Now I had to even access and purchase slippers that did not have to hurt the toe. So when I'm just wearing it, I have to ensure it's gentle and it is not instilling more pain to my toe. So that's the same thing we need to do. We have to change some behavior. It can't be business as usual. Let's say, for example, it is somebody who is hurting you and you're not near that person. Don't behave like nothing has happened. You don't have, again, to behave like in an irresponsible manner. You need to let the person know that you're hurting, and you need to begin the healing process. So if it's somebody that you hurt you through the way maybe you talk, or maybe the promises you keep, or the things that you're doing, or somebody betrayed you, then you need to let the person know that you acknowledge that they have done that, you're hurting, and you need to start healing. That is the part we don't do. A lot of times we fake feelings, we fake behavior, we fake smiles, and so that blocks the healing process. So what happens? You are stopping the wound from getting treated, and that is one of the things we need to do. Number one, acknowledge the wound is there. Number two, protect from getting more wounded. Number three, you have to adjust a few things. Your behavior had to adjust so that you can start accommodating the new process. This might have to involve the person who hurt you in the first place, or the situation that hurt you. So let your priority be to heal before you engage with any other thing. You cannot say, I want to buy a new pair of shoes, and that time your toe is so big swollen. You need to postpone some things so that you can first heal. You need to come up with a plan or seek help to heal the wounded heart. When you're seeking help, for example, even when you go to hospital and you have an open wound, there is something I learned in medicine that they call searching the wound. This is where they toanisha the wound, for those people who can understand what I'm saying, and it will begin bleeding again. It will be a bit scary for those people who are not medics and may not stand that. And so they clean it up inside, and then they can see what they need to do before they can close it. This is where professionals will have to ask you to talk about what is hurting you. It may be a painful story. It may be something you don't want to talk again. But for you to heal, you need to talk again. You need to bring it out. Emotions are involved. Crying, shouting, talking a lot, anger may be involved. But that is all you need to be able to search the wound, clean it before you can close it. So, for emotional hurt, for a wounded heart, it has to do with the raw emotions like crying is what we call bleeding. Talking with bitterness is a sign of bleeding. Anger is bleeding, and a lot of other emotions that we express that show that we are still hurting and our wounds are still raw. Now I've talked a lot. So where do you keep the heart? That is the bottom line. Number one, you have to hide it in your inner space. If you are able to keep your inner house in order, you will realize that there is that inner space that is not reached by many. That only those people you have allowed, like in your bedroom, only those people that you are close to and those people who have the authority can go there. The same thing with your inner space. Keep it there. Nobody can see it there. Nobody can access it there. That is one of the most safe places to keep your wounded heart. If you have the strength to keep it there. Let's say you are struggling. Let's say you are unable to keep it. Let's say you are unable even to process. You can seek help from those you trust to help you surround the heart with warmth, so that even if the heart is there, it is not in a cold place where it's dying slowly. You want to keep it warm. The warmth of those people you trust is what can help you keep your heart well. Professionals also help. They will search the wound and they will eventually close it and help you. Where not to keep your heart? In public places. People will trample it. People will talk trash. People will give feedback that is not helpful. Only those hearts that have been healed should be exposed to the media by choice when you are ready. So do not share your story if you are still bleeding. Do not share your story if you still need support to heal your heart. The parting shot is, guard your heart and it will guard your happiness. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Margaret Kagwe.